is Three Kids and a Man.
My name is Ashley Shalls.
I'm Leah Garvins.
Jasmine Smith.
And like she said, we're three kids and a man. Clearly, minus the man. Typical of a man to dip out when he's needed. So, we read Rafe, Esquith, Teach Like Your Hair's on Fire. What'd y'all think?
I thought it was a really good book.
Yeah,
It's
I thought it was
great.
kind of entertaining.
In the preface, he was basically telling, how he got the, thought to teach like your hair's on fire because he was helping one of his students with a science project and her little lantern wasn't lighting. So, he went to go help her and he, lit it with the match and he got his hair on fire and all the kids were like,
I love that part.
oh my gosh. So, he wants that reaction, all the time with his kids. So, that's why he wants to teach, his hair's on fire.
When I read that, I couldn't help but laugh because it's just like, I can't, I'm sorry, but I could not have been in that room. I can't stand the smell of burning hair. I'm sorry. I would have probably just, run out of the room, crying or something, gagging. Burnt hair. Rafe Esquith. Okay.
That was one of his colleagues, I believe.
Well, I see the point, but I feel like he kind of maybe took it a little too far with having everyone throw their stuff. I get, because you do see people. I know when I was younger, I saw people with backpacks, and I was just like, how do you
find
yeah.
anything? Yeah.
What do you? I don't like throwing stuff in my backpack because I know that later on if I'm gonna try to find it, I'm not going to find it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, I feel like that's kind of, and that's stuff that might risk scarring kids for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
It's like
I
a
think
bad
it will.
nickname.
He can't undo that now. The kid can't. So all those kids are gonna think of him as the messy kid for the rest of their life, and it just sucks.
I mean, some people might take it and when they're older, might take it to the point where they what am I trying to say? They make a joke out of it and they're like, oh, haha, but somebody else might be scarred, and I feel like that kind of goes along with bullying. And that person could have gone into depression and killed himself or something. You can't, there's that invisible line that you, as an educator, have to be careful not to cross. Because it could be bad for them and your career. You'd be the next headline on news. But
Chapter 2 was great. It was all about Lawrence Kohlberg's 6 levels of moral development. And so he says that these levels of moral development are like the glue that keeps his class together. And so level 1 was basically don't get in trouble. And this is based on fear. They don't do what they do what they're supposed to do because they're afraid of the consequences, not because they know that it's the right thing to do.
yeah. I don't know how y'all feel about it, but I feel like if you're going to do something, you should do it because you know it's right, not because you get a reward or have to face a consequence if you do or don't.
Right. Level 2 was, about I want a reward. It's rewarding kids for their good deeds. You take a nap during nap time and you get a piece of candy, or, you read your story and you get a check. And level 3 was I want to please somebody. So these are your people pleasers. I'm going to do this because I like to make you happy. Level 4 was I follow the rules. And he says that there's nothing wrong with following the rules, but he just wants his students to be better.
Yeah.
Level 5 was being considerate of other people. So, and he says, imagine a world where we teach our kids empathy and they're considerate of other people. And level 6, which is the last level, is the hardest to teach and the hardest for so many people to attain because it's your personal moral development. It's your morals that you personally have, and you can't really, it's hard to teach those to other people.
I feel like there's a point where too much reward is taking it too far to where they're not worrying about bettering themselves. They're just okay, if I do this, I get a reward.
Right.
Kind of the way I feel about it is some teachers with the whole Burt back thing. Oh, well, if I memorize said information and get said grade, cool. But you really don't get anything out of it. You just did it for the reward of the good grade, which there's no challenge there.
No.
I feel like there's a you have to find that happy medium
Mm-hmm.
instead of them just being like, I'm going to do this just because I get a piece of candy. Or a golden star or a check mark, you know?
Mm-hmm. I also like chapter 14. You know, I guess I'll talk about chapter 14 if that's okay.
Sure.
Chapter 14, he talks about going mobile, and that's, you know, he took his kids on trips to Washington, D.C. and to other places, and he says that, you know, especially with this No Child Left Behind, he says he doesn't really agree with that, that, you know, he leaves kids behind all the time, that
This sounds so mean.
they have to earn their spots on these trips, and they'll spend time after school researching the history of the place and learning about where they're going, so it's not like they get there and they're just sightseeing. They know and they understand the history behind the place. He teaches these kids his expectations of them on airplanes and in motel rooms, and they know how to manage their own money, and so they know what to do and what to expect when they go off.
I like that, I think your chapter 14 goes along with chapter 15. He was talking about like the importance of them learning music, and it's not just, hey, we're going to go on a field trip, or, you know, it teaches them the importance of these things, and, you know, it's not like you're saying, like the sightseeing thing, just the importance of having these kids learn these things that makes them more well-rounded, because then they're not just going through, you know, the motions of school. I know one of my favorite parts was at the end in the epilogue. The epilogue's titled Rest in Peace, and he talks about how, you know, being an educator, it's not always easy, and you're going to have people that make you want to rip your hair out, and you're going to have those students that you can try so hard to connect to them, but there's just like some things, like their family and their home life is just so terrible that you can only reach so far. You can't grasp out to them and have them grasp back to you, and talking about how hard that is as an educator to understand that. But then again, you still have those students that you will connect with, and you will get that bond and that point where you learn from each other. And that's what he says again, is that, you know, you have to learn from the students and let them learn from you. It's mutual. And he talks about another student's essay that she wrote, and she was talking about how her fifth grade classroom in room 56 went from being terrifying and horror to going in there and being like the lessons and music and what they were learning, and, you know, just kind of got out of that fear, that kind of like what he was talking about in his, to the levels of moral development that you read in chapter 2. So I thought that was pretty impressive myself, that he took the hair catching on fire thing and just kind of like ran with it, and then ended up making it to his benefit. And I mean, he seems like an amazing teacher. Kind of wish I had him in my younger years. We're going to look into his other texts now, because if it's as enjoyable about that one, then, you know, we can learn more from it. And,
Right.
But yeah, I think it was impressive.
I think it was great.
I think it was great. It's pretty entertaining myself. So if you haven't read Teach Like Your Hair's on Fire, you need to read it. Definitely. Definitely impressive, and a benefit to read as an educator, or anyone, actually.
Teach Like Your Hair's on Fire. The end.
The end. Ta-da!